Sport, I mean, sport's an immensely curious business. I think over the last few days we've talked a lot around sport, and we have focused quite a lot on football, and I think football has obviously bared a huge part of the slides and the various discussions. Just to say, obviously, we're very much across a lot of sports and a lot of different sports, from football to rugby to cricket to horse racing. And what I'm going to just talk through today is a little bit around some of the other stuff that we do, how it all fits together, and really what we're trying to ultimately achieve. And I think if you start by looking at I think the three key things. So I think if you ask a lot of people here, what do we do? I think probably most people, well, you've been here for a few days, you understand quite clearly what we do as a business. If you then sort of dig a bit deeper and say, how do we do it? We've talked a lot about compression and different things and artifacts and resolutions, and we've gone, I think, quite technical. And as I said to everybody yesterday, we're very much presenting to quite a mixed audience. I think it's important that everybody gets a good understanding of it. But fundamentally, when you get past that kind of how do we do it, and you'll have seen technically how do we do it firsthand here, then ultimately we look and we start to understand, okay, why do we do it? Why are we fundamentally doing what we're doing? And I think one of the best examples was we started in 1991 originally as an audio design company, and we specialised in designing and installing audio systems, hence audio design installations, hence ADI. And I started in 91, and we built the business up in Preston, hence why we're headquartered here to this day. And we quickly then worked across a lot of retail. So our background in the early 90s was retail. We did a huge amount of retail stores. We did just about every HMV in the UK, North America, Canada. We did Virgin, R-Price, a lot of brands these days that aren't even around in record retailing. And we worked closely with all of those. Then about 95, we started to get involved in sport. And it was quite interesting as we started to get involved in sport and started to look at sport. The very first person I ever met in sport was Doug Ellis, the then chairman of Aston Villa, who anybody who knows Doug will smile with me. And Doug was an interesting character, to say the least. And I remember going and talking to him about video screens, and he wanted to buy a couple of video screens. And the first question he asked me was, did I support his team? And I said, no, Mr. Ellis, unfortunately, I don't support your team. And he looked at me in a very touching way, and he said, so what team do you support? And I said, well, actually, Mr. Ellis, I'm not actually a football fan, Mr. Ellis. And then he looked at me and he said, well, if only other people would be so bloody honest. He said, the amount of people that come through here and claim they've been a fan of the club since 1952, and then I asked them a few questions, they don't even know who the goalie is. And Doug was great, and I remember this went on for a couple of weeks, and we were going to-ing and fro-ing and doing various things, going backwards and forwards, and we eventually got the deal done, and I thought, yeah, this is great, this is brilliant, this is the big stage, this is the stadium, and I'd never even been to a football match at this stage, so it really was quite funny. I used to keep on peeking out the glass from his office and looking at this piece of pitch and grass, and being from Wales, it was the wrong shaped ball to start with, so it just all looked wrong. And we did the deal, and I remember doing the deal with him and thinking, this is really good, and then shook hands with him, and he said, you know something? He said, other than the 11 idiots on the pitch, you're the only person who can make me look more stupid. And I thought, okay. And then sort of it dawned on me that actually, do you know what we actually are? And you go back to the what we do and how we do it. Fundamentally, why do we do it? Well, we do it because it's entertainment. We're there to deliver an experience, and that's what our business is all about. So, we look at the business here, and you've seen the place here, and you've seen it on a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 type of experience. But then once you quickly get outside of that and you get into the weekends, then we become a completely different business. They're an entirely different set of people, still some of the same people, but obviously more and more people who are here to do production and deliver content. And I often say to people, well, fundamentally, when most people stop working, we start working. And we're there delivering all of that technology and delivering all of that experience. And I'm just going to spend a little bit of time this morning talking around why we're doing it and focusing on the why. I think we've kind of talked around the what and we've talked around the how, and we're really going to just drill into the why for a little bit and talk around delivering that experience at the venue and how we make that experience at the venue really start to work and how we make it start to come together as ADI really. I think one of the key things we tried to do, over the last few days is obviously we tried to talk around our partners and what we're doing with our partners. So, you know, we do some fantastic things. We're not going to solve everything in the world ourselves. And it is about working with our partners and bringing those partners together. In my opening speech, I talked about aggregated rights sales, which fundamentally drives most sports big income. And the reverse of that, or if you like, the reflection of that, is actually aggregated cost savings. It's about putting these technologies together, and it's about delivering things integral and trying to save money where we can. I talked about the business of sport isn't getting easier, and it certainly isn't. So we've obviously installed a lot of product in a lot of venues. We've built up I think a very good reputation in terms of what we do and delivering a lot of that technology day in, day out and making it work. But we don't just do venues. I mean, we actually provide equipment and technology for around 3,000 events a year in the UK and Europe. So there's an awful lot of technology that goes behind it. Notably, we're known for some of perhaps the bigger events, but as I often say to people, we do everything from the royal wedding to small race meetings and everything in between, really. And our skill is bringing together all the technologies. So you'll have seen firsthand today in the car park, the screens and how all that technology comes together. And for those of you who aren't familiar with us from an in-depth hardware point of view, we own a very good manufacturing and assembly facility in southern China, where we put everything together, and who the guys there are doing a fantastic job. I've got a number of our colleagues over from China this week. And we engineer, design and come up with the concepts in the UK. Huge amount of prototyping, which we do in the Northwest, and then fundamentally deliver the products out to market. And this is about delivering products. I mean, Andy's talked before about getting things to work and making sure things do constantly work. You know, that's our challenge. You're only actually as good as your last event. And as someone said to me a few years ago in television, you know, good television is about knowing what to do when it actually goes wrong. So you can see just a flavour of some of the events we're doing and some of the events we're actually delivering, and how we go about delivering those events, and the effect obviously our technology has in terms of delivering it. So coming back to the fundamentals, we are a hardware, services and content business at the core, and it's bringing those together and delivering those that is the key factor. And I often think people don't buy technology. I talked about yesterday that live venue is a great solution, and you saw firsthand some of our customers and partners for some properties and brands like the Premier League and IMG, and how we talk around what we do for Sky. And if any of that stuff falls off air on a Saturday afternoon, it causes everybody chaos. So there is a real challenge in delivering that, but ultimately it is about delivering it very simply, because people don't actually buy the technology that we deliver. They buy the effect it has and what that ultimately delivers to the stadium as a whole. So if you try and look at it, or if you try and look at it holistically and say, okay, where are all these pieces and how do they fit? And actually, how do you put them together? Because I think we have a lot of really talented people here. We don't actually have any black magic, although it might look like it at times. But it's ultimately about getting those people to work together, getting them to work with our partners. We're very lucky to have some incredibly good partners, and I think you've seen over the last few days how far they've travelled, and they've come to be with us and supported us in the process. And the many proofs of concept that go behind it is huge. And you look at things such as the Adobe Anywhere demonstration, as we talked about yesterday, and Matt was saying, that's a world exclusive. Nobody's ever really done that before. We've taken over a year to build all that infrastructure, that technology, to bring it to get it all to work together and bring it together. But actually, the end result is just a piece of video that gets from A to B quicker and actually gets populated and doesn't involve a motorbike courier or a guy in a van moving a disc from A to B. But it's actually making that end piece look really simple and then actually delivering it. And I think what we're all about as a business is actually delivering that experience. Now, a ton of work goes into delivering that experience. And I just want to show you a short video just to give you a bit of a feel for some of the challenges that we sometimes have on a match day, and what that brings into play and how that looks like. If we can roll the video.
Kevin Morales!
So that just gives you a good idea of some of the work that goes in on any given event, that being football obviously, but it gives you a good idea of how that starts to come together and really what we're trying to do. I'm going to quickly sort of walk everybody through just a couple of slides really around our products and what we're ultimately achieving. I think we always try and think about things as a journey. I mean, fundamentally for us, it's about the customer and the customer journey. And when I say the customer, I mean your customers, not not us as a whole. So it's very much about getting those customers and understanding where they go. And I think if we take this scenario, which again is apologies, it's football led, but it gives you a good idea of really how that whole process goes. So fan zones and beanbacks are a very obvious and easy way to engage people, but actually are probably not used anywhere near as much as we can do. We've done some really groundbreaking work working with people like broadcasters. I mean, you see there with ESPN where we put a 100 square meter truck into a venue, stage in front of it, and created some really compelling content. You can see straight away the amount of crowd of people we had in front of it. And then we go to the other end of it where we're covering events, be they beanbacks, be they various ceremonies that we do. And again, it's about bringing those fans together in some sort of fan zone and engagement. You've seen the trucks outside. We've got over 30 trucks now in Europe, so those trucks pop up really quickly. I mean, operational people smile when I say that, but they do pop up relatively really quickly. and we can get those into all sorts of places, and we're literally, as I say, there are 3,000 of those deployed a year. Everything from the royal weddings, we do most of the film premieres in Leicester Square. You know, the list goes on in terms of what we can do with that. So we're very used to working with clubs in that way and delivering value, be it around racing, race courses, all sorts of venues. I want to quickly just pick up on our Concourse proposition. So a little over 2 years ago, we purchased half of a business called 11 Sports Media. They were a really impressive bunch of guys, locally based, who really understand the value of platforms and how to deliver those platforms, and understand where you can actually create that engagement, how you manage that engagement, and most of all, how you commercialize that engagement. And we've really enjoyed working with Matt and his team there to deliver platforms. And we've really now started to look at how do we take that a bit further. So we started off delivering Concourse, which actually technically isn't that difficult, but we did it in a quite a polished way and a very reliable way. And we focused back to what Andy was saying earlier about quality. We focused on encoding the video and making sure the quality was good, so that the experience itself was technically good, and putting some good content on it. And we really then have rolled that out at a huge amount of stadiums, where we provide a very dedicated solution, all provided from the building, all sat within our data center. So we're able to pull lots of content together, and I think that becomes more and more immersive. And we're very much working with leaders in the field out there, such as the Performs and the Optas of this world, in terms of taking that data and being able to aggregate it, publish it, and make a compelling story actually for the fans. Then we've got StatZone, which you'll all have seen in our dome. And StatZone is our latest product as 11, which is very much about taking the whole concept of stats and interactivity within the venue, and trying to give a little bit more of that red button access that you perhaps would get at home when you can sit at home and interact. We're trying to bring a bit more of that to the Concourse, and really try and deliver that. For any of you who've seen the Brad Pitt film Moneyball, you only have to look at things like that to understand the value of stats and what those stats actually mean to fans and why it's important. And I'm sure all of you had a good chance to have a look at that product. But again, take time today to perhaps speak to Matt and a number of our colleagues around it and what we can deliver on it. It's our own platform, which means it's ultimately very, very flexible. We can very much scale it for clubs. We can do different things with it, and it can be very much working across rugby, cricket, football, horse racing, etc. So it's ultimately a very flexible platform. And again, sat in our data center here, so incredibly powerful in terms of what we can achieve. We talked about Wi-Fi this morning and the whole Wi-Fi experience, and Vince has been really kind of taking time to take us through it and what we're trying to do. And I think we all understand everybody wants Wi-Fi. How do you deliver Wi-Fi? And actually, Wi-Fi gets back to the same problem as live venue almost, in as much as that Wi-Fi on its own is actually going to do nothing more than connect you to the internet. It's about how do we start to integrate more value into that experience, and how do we ultimately pull it together. And that really is about building it into the hub. So Vince and I have been really looking at the whole management of that experience. How do you do it? How do you get the backhaul back from the stadium? And obviously, unsurprisingly, we use fibre, we bring it to here, and we really try and get that sort of connectivity to work. So behind the scenes last year, we did some really groundbreaking proof of concept work with Sky, where we put some trucks in for some matches. So we had a Sky on-air live match. The EVS product within the truck was connected to our Nevian and live venue network, which we brought the content over, and we were able to access the EVS products in the truck, pulling clips off. So literally, as a goal was scored, we could get the clip, we could move it from, at the time we did it actually mainly from the Emirates, but we pulled it from there to Preston, got the clip, and then got the clip. We were able to very, very quickly transcode that clip and push it to a mobile device. And when I say quickly, all within 30 seconds. So we're able to pull a lot of that content and make that content work quick. And I think that the compelling proposition that we'll have across Wi-Fi with Vince and his team is very much saying, well, yeah, we'll connect you, but actually we're going to really dig deep. We're going to understand how those products go together and how we can make them all kind of deliver that content, to getting back to delivering that immersive, engaging experience. LED screens, obviously the thing we tend to be most well known for, because they're big and bright and they stand in the corner, and as Doug said, they'll make me look more stupid than the 11 on the pitch if they don't work. So it gives you it always kind of gives you a very good kind of calling card as a business in terms of people seeing what we've done. I think we've actually got a Forest game here today. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim. We've got a Nottingham Forest game in today, haven't we? That's going on tonight from one of the galleries. So that's all set up in one of the galleries down here. So again, we talked a lot about making content. Obviously, everything you've seen today is made from galleries upstairs, but we've also got one of our galleries this afternoon doing live content transmission for 20-odd thousand fans at Forest. So again, feel free to stick your head in there and have a look at that. Finally, we got something that isn't football, so it proves we really do other sports and not just talk about it. We did a huge amount last year. We worked very closely with Jeff Durbin, the commercial director at Lancashire County Cricket Club, and put a 60 square metre screen in there, and worked very closely with his team doing all the design and the fulfilment of the structure and putting together the structure, and our colleagues in China manufacturing the screen and then installing it and working with them on the content side. So again, making it really compelling in terms of what people get to see. And our work stretches, for those of you not aware, that we have offices in France, in Nigeria, and in Cape Town, and we work in a lot of developing areas within those markets, and this is one of our jobs that we've done out in South Africa. We did a number of the stadiums for the World Cup when it was last out there. And again, back to more permanent screens in venues. So again, horse racing, we're now starting to install more and more permanent screens and put more infrastructure within those environments as well. So we come right the way back down. We've sorted and solved a lot of the challenges around the technology. The technology's there. We've connected the stadiums. We talked about managing the assets, and now it's very much about the actual content. So, we've got rid of all those challenges, all the issues of gigabit pipes and the compression and pictures and resolution, and we've got the content at the right place at the right time, and we're working with all the right partners. But actually, what does it mean? Because fundamentally, it is about engagement. Going back to what I said earlier about what we do is entertain people when they stop working. So just want to show you a short video about some of the content that we have created for customers and that experience that we try and bring them. A good idea of some of the passion and the enthusiasm for the sports we're involved in, and what we try and ultimately evoke with the fans and the supporters. And then it's about really taking that content and how can we build that content, and how can we take that passion, that engagement, and deliver it on every platform we've got. So Digital Ribbon is one of our newer products that we installed. We became the first company ever to install it in a club last year, where we put it into and installed it into Cardiff, and worked very closely with the team at Cardiff there to create an immersive experience. I'm told from a revenue point of view, in the first season they've almost paid for the upper video ribbon because of the amount of engagement that they've got through brands and how they've managed to deliver that. And for those of you who haven't been, it's an incredibly immersive experience in how it all works and comes together. We're also very well known for our digital perimeter systems. Work very closely with the leading provider of those in the UK, Sport5, and work providing both the technology and making sure that technology works, and in conjunction with themselves, who manage the right side of it, delivering very, very good, stable platforms to clubs with 13 systems installed in British football. And we're starting to look at how we can create that value, put the content together more and more, and ultimately going back down to the engagement value, and ultimately how do we build that into commercial sponsors and for customers, for our customers like clubs or such as Sport5, ultimately getting the most out of it and getting the best value out of the deployment of the product as a whole, really. We've also got a new product which is crowd-facing, which is taking the concept of digital perimeter and putting digital perimeter on the rear side as well, and how that works. And that, again, provides an engagement tool. We've installed that at West Bromwich Albion, and they've used it very successfully in being able to message the fans, engage the fans, and just get some interaction with the fans. And as you can imagine, as you start to build up some of that, and particularly where you can take that and start to build in other parts of the glue that connects it together, such as the Wi-Fi, it's then very easy on a match day to be connecting via Wi-Fi and sending social media messages onto the system. And then really I want to talk about just a little bit around Total Stadium Takeover, which is one of our latest products that we've deployed and spent some considerable time looking at. So we've talked over the last few days around lots of various technology, lots of display mediums. How do you bring all that together? And ultimately, we've talked here about how we're delivering it, how we're sending all that content out. But what we work really strongly on is actually taking all that content and getting it in one place and delivering it all at the same time. So we now have a server-based solution that allows us to, at the touch of a button, deliver all of that content into a stadium and deliver it in a way whereby all of it synchronizes together. So we're able to suddenly have every digital display medium in the stadium at the same time display the same brand. And then once that brand goes over, it all changes back to being individual brands. And by that, I'm meaning everything. So I'm meaning the lounge monitors, the concourse monitors, the stat zone monitors from 11, the digital perimeter system, the crowd-facing perimeter system, the big screens in the stadium, the fan zone screens, and the digital ribbon. And again, Cardiff have been incredibly impressed with what that's done commercially, because it's allowed them to go to an engagement level with commercial partners that's been far greater than they've previously had, because all of a sudden they've been able to say, look, we can put your brand over every medium that we've got, and we can deliver that in an instant, which is an incredibly powerful message to tie it all up. Because the more that we deliver all these different mediums, actually, the more that the challenge becomes, it could then actually become more of a disparate medium. So it's important to get all of that to ultimately kind of try and start to work together, and how we build all those products in and really drive them and get some real valid use out of them. This afternoon we're going to be talking about the commercialities of what we do as well, and obviously that will lead very nicely into that, as to understanding how we get commercial revenues. So beyond the venue, I mean, we talk really a lot about what we achieve here, what we achieve at the venue. But as I said, when I stood before you all yesterday, what we do beyond the venue actually is becoming even more key. And getting the engagement is actually massive. A really interesting set of numbers we looked at internally. We looked within football, so we work obviously very strongly in the 92 league clubs in the UK, the Premiership, the Championship, League One and League Two. And we looked at all those clubs, and we looked at them for last season, and we looked at actually what was their capacity, what was their average attendance, and what was the average ticket price. We then subtracted the actual capacity or the actual attendance from the capacity to tell us how many spare seats there were in every match. And we then went on to times that by the actual cost of the ticket. And the numbers become staggering really quickly. I just in the audience, if you were to look in the championship, the value of unsold tickets, and for anybody who was with me at the bar last night at about midnight, don't put your hand up. But anybody take a guess at how much unsold ticket value there is in, say, the championship in a season? Anyone have a stab at it? And you know, interestingly, I thought when I first looked at the stats before I saw them, I thought, I bet you that's a good million and a bit a club. So I was in the 20 to 25 million. It's actually 107 million pounds of unsold tickets that are wasted in it. And I was with the chief exec of the Football League a few weeks ago, and we were chatting about sort of various strategies and how kind of sports changing and things. And I actually asked him, I said, just interestingly, in ticket sales, how much money does the club keep of tickets? Because, you know, we talk about a lot of the industries we work within, and, you know, there are multiple layers, there are agencies involved, there are commissions involved, and, you know, it's not uncommon in football to sell something and actually an agency gets a commission of 20-30%. So I was interested to see what does it boil down to on tickets, and actually tickets are incredible. They keep 97% of the income from tickets. So actually, what costs them to deploy a ticket in terms of ticket printing and ticket delivery and a bit more stewarding is 3%. So actually, there is a huge amount of cash there, over £100 million, that actually is untapped revenue. So it's easy to say, well, there's £100 million of untapped revenue, and you feel like a politician making a set of stats work for you. But actually, you know, how do you drive more people into championship football, and how does that relate to other things? And it does relate to other things. Again, I was with the chief exec of Jockey Club Racing a while ago, and we were chatting around the statistics of how many times people visit the courses, and 1.6 times is the average time people visit the course. And he said, you know, if we could get that to 1.7, the income literally is tens of millions. So it is about understanding how do we drive that beyond the venue, both to then achieve tangible value, and how do we achieve intangible value in terms of fans and customer base. So we are very focused on that and how we take that and how we ultimately deliver content beyond it. We work with a number of streaming partners in delivering content to devices already. And it's ultimately taking those assets and making more of the assets. I always think it's curious, as someone, as I said earlier, about my non-lack of football knowledge. It's interesting because actually, you know, when you talk about football, and we work in obviously lots of different areas like retail and things like that, and you go to football, and it's the first of all thing that hits you is it's a club. So it's a club, not a company. And actually, they're not customers, they're fans. And in any other walk of life, I think if you talk to someone and said, well, I'm a member of a club, why don't we meet for lunch? There's sort of a feel straight away, that little bit of exclusiveness, like we're going to a special club. And fundamentally, you know, you then think, well, actually, what do we need to deliver to fans? If fans are fans, not customers, and companies are not companies, they're clubs, then actually what we need to get from that is give them a little bit of experience. I mean, I know when we've done a lot of music events, when we shoot some stuff backstage and then we put that on the web, the people, actual fans, go mad for it because actually they see a little bit of people backstage. And I think what we're trying to do within football is a little bit more of that. It's about making people feel special and about delivering them a better value experience. And it's using that content, and it's literally coordinating that content in a better way, hitting the sort of production values you see here. So we're producing very much for a web environment. We're not someone who produces broadcast content, but we're producing it for a web environment, for a consumer environment. But those consumers still want really good quality content. And yesterday I talked about immediacy, because I think the value of content is always related to immediacy. And I talk about this a lot with clubs, because ultimately it's yesterday's news in a flash these days. And you look at how we get live venue to work in some of those environments. And you take an example, we work very closely with the Premier League, providing connectivity at a lot of the actual manager conferences. But if you take an average manager conference that is going to go on the press conference, so we're going to see all the build up to all the actual written press and the television press arrived, and then the manager arrives, there's then all the questions, and then ultimately that's chopped up by the likes of Sky very quickly and sent to air. But imagine if you were a fan at the club and you've got access to your own special channel, and you catch perhaps the last minute or so of the written press leaving the room, and then perhaps 10 exclusive fans arrive in the room, and those 10 fans get to ask the manager, which we'd have to check what they ask them, but they get to ask them questions, and you're putting the fans in that world where the fans can interact them a little more, and as long as that's managed, then actually that starts to create really quite engaging content. So the immediacy, I think, is also absolutely key in terms of what we do, and it's using technology to deliver that immediacy. So I'm quickly conscious I do stand before everyone in between lunch, so I'm going to wrap up now really with some just future technology, what we're looking at. One particular area that we've worked quite hard on and done a lot of research and done some interesting proof of concept. So I talked before about we've got 13 clubs that use our perimeter system, and we're really trying to understand, actually, can we get more value from a perimeter system? Because at any one given time, only a bit of our perimeter system is actually on camera. So typically, that tends to be around 40 linear meters of 250 meters. So literally less than 20% of it's on camera. We did some trials last year where we took the pictures from a venue. We put those into our data center here. Through a mixture of algorithms, we were able to identify what we term the field of play, and we're about 98% accurate on field of play at the moment. And as the cameras move around, then ultimately we're able to work out which the active bit is and which it isn't. So again, it's another way that we're looking at being able to use our technology. So if we're only using 20% of it for television, that leaves 80% of it which could be used for club messaging, interactivity, social media interaction. So again, it's not always coming up with different assets, it's probably just trying to get the most out of existing assets for our customers. We've got a new product that we're going to be launching later this year, which is called the iconic H standing for hospitality. And it's essentially a box within a box, as I often describe it. And ultimately, it's a crossover product, I think is the best way to describe it. And I think if you look back in the sort of the late 70s, early 80s, of the car manufacturing world, you had vans and you had cars, and then Renault came up with the Espace, and suddenly there was lots of seats in a thing that was a bit shaped like a van, but actually was lots of windows in it. It's probably the best analogy I can use for this. So this is about taking our proven LED screen technology. It's about taking our understanding of hydraulics and wind loading and all those moments and challenges that go into making anything go up and stay up and not fall down. And it's then about using that space internally. So we've got some early proof of concepts that we're going to be starting to roll out around sports clubs and sports brands to understand how we can create a box within a box. There is space upstairs and there is space downstairs. And again, it's about using that for brands. So it may be that VIP customers who are arriving at a venue can go into this and do some sampling. It may be that there's a tie-up with a manufacturer that's working with the club, that then again, maybe a Samsung of this world, that someone can go in and touch and feel the electronics and things like that. So it's really just trying to extend that value beyond it. And that's really kind of the main bits I wanted to talk to you about today, is just show you some of the newer products we're doing, as well as what we're currently doing, give you a feel for where the future goes in our world and how we see we can deliver that bit more value. And ultimately how we ultimately deliver the engagement through the technology that we've got, and by pushing those boundaries and continuing to deliver it, ultimately delivering better and better value for everybody. And I'll just wrap up and finish off with our product that you've probably most of you seen outside, which is one of our higher res products, which is a new digital Digiboard 6mm. So at the moment, 20 millimeter pixel pitch is the most common product that we tend to install in football clubs. And we talked today a lot about 4K, where we're going to have much higher resolution images. And again, we're moving more and more towards that. So again, we've got an early proof of concept product out there, which takes that product and ultimately gives better engagement, better quality in terms of what we're delivering on television.